Comfort food does not get better than this. Today, we're making a rich, umami-packed, dairy-free version of the famous cream of mushroom soup. And we start with the mushrooms. Traditional recipes call for either button mushroom, chestnut mushroom, or a mixture of the two. These two are the same exact mushroom, differing only in age. Younger, milder, softer texture. Older, heartier, richer, earthier. Which side of the spectrum you land on is a personal choice. Today, we'll go with the chestnut. And fun fact, an even older version of this, portobello. And you slice them however you like, as long as they're uniformly sized. Whether you remove the stem is a personal choice. They're milder in flavours, with a slightly firmer texture. So I tend to remove them just so that I can use more of the caps for more flavours. And now we can cook. Hot pan, we add a generous amount of high smoke point neutral oil. In this case, refined olive oil. Mushrooms, they go in. Make sure you hear this sound before you add the rest. And you try to form one even layer-ish. Try to not crowd the pan. The objective of the exercise here is that you want to evaporate the water content of the mushrooms to concentrate their flavours. And chestnut mushrooms, they contain 90 to 92% water. So for about 300 grams of mushrooms here, you have about 270 grams of water. Think about how long would it take for you to bring that much water to a boil, then to evaporate most of that water content. So this will take us about 8 minutes at high heat. We season with salt. This will also help the mushrooms release their moisture. Optional, black pepper. Add some earthy goodness. If you're cooking this for the first, second or third time, I highly recommend that you do it in a non-stick skillet, just to take the stress away. Mushrooms and the flour we're going to introduce later are both quite prone to burning. So take the stress away, enjoy the cooking process, and later you can explore the beauty of the fond, the burn bits when you have more time. While the mushrooms are evaporating, we mince some onion. And a bit of garlic. But we put the garlic separately because they burn much faster than the onion. Now, look at how much they have shrunk. That's the water content evaporating. So now, we continue to build flavours. First, the onions. And for the onions, we reduce the heat slightly to not burn them, to give them time to slowly evaporate their water content, concentrate their flavours, especially the sweetness. Season once again. Now, once you can no longer smell the harshness of the onion and they look translucent and you can no longer taste the harsh acidity, garlic goes in. And same principles, evaporation, concentration, removal of harshness. While we're cooking out the garlic, allow me to introduce what is, in my opinion, the star of the show, the umami bomb. Here, I've rehydrated some dry porcini mushrooms, which looked like this about an hour ago, and we simply squeezed out all the excess liquid. You can use any dry mushrooms for this recipe, and what this brings to the table is concentrated umami, what's going to make the soup savory and complex. And we're keeping all the soaking liquid for later. Simply chop them. Fine. What differentiates the dry mushrooms from more flavors of mushrooms like the portobello that we didn't use is that this is extremely concentrated in glutamic acid, nature's G in MSG, the umami content. But this is not overpowering in terms of mushroomy flavors. So we're adding a lot of depth and earthy taste to the dish without ruining its balance. Once the garlic is fragrant, meaning your whole room smells like wonderful roasted garlic, the dry mushrooms, they go in. A, to emulsify, B, to cook out some of their moisture. Once there's almost no steam coming out, we start to introduce the all-purpose flour, the roux making, and we stir to prevent the flour from clumping together. Back to the French origin of this dish. First the roux making, followed by the addition of cream, creating the velouté, a term frequently spammed by fine dining establishments nowadays, unfortunately. And we now cook out the raw taste of the flour and allow the flour to emulsify with the oil that is currently in this pan. And the roux would help us thicken the soup. Once you can no longer, or almost no longer see any form of white powder, we start to introduce the liquid. And we do it bit by bit, especially in the beginning. It is extremely important that you allow time for your soaking liquid to cool down completely. Hot roux, cold liquid. Because when you introduce liquid to a roux, the flour of the roux starts to swell. And by using a cold liquid, you reduce the temperature and slow down the swelling, allowing yourself more time to stir, to mix everything together, to prevent anything from lumping together. Bit by bit. For me, cream of mushroom soup, the term cream is referring to the creaminess of the dish, not the color of the dish. The color represents the depth of flavors that we're creating. Now we can add the rest. Very carefully transfer it to a pot. Bring it back to a boil, lid on, and you let this simmer and let the flavors emulsify for 10 minutes. Now, after 10 minutes, we add the cream to our cream of mushroom soup. The choice of cream today is coconut cream, not because we're lactose intolerant, because this is the consistency and flavor profile I prefer. It adds a lighter richness to the dish than double cream would, and it gives a hint of sweetness that balances the earthiness of the chestnut mushrooms extremely well. If you want a more traditional, more buttery creaminess, by all means, use double cream. It will work equally well. Now, for anyone who's followed this channel for at least a week, you would know I love cooking out my coconut cream to add depth. But we're not doing this today because we want something different from the coconut cream. We don't want that rich coconutty taste to overpower the dish. We want this to stay as neutral as possible. So once again, lid on, another 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we have this beauty. Now, one more optional step to reinforce the earthy goodness. We add some thyme. And for me, thyme is at its earthy best when you add it last minute. So the way I like to do it, I simply grab a bunch and we stir the soup, emulsifying the flavors. And on your other hand, you taste at the same time. And once you've detected enough thyme goodness, this comes out. We drizzle a tiny bit more coconut cream, optional of course. More thyme for garnish. And that's it. Wonderful on its own and ready for any casserole you have in mind.